We are back with another 100 world coins, all identified, $20. This is number 3 out of 5 that I bought from this dealer. They used to sell 50 coins for $10, but they must have had a lot of inventory they had to move, so they doubled up the quantity and the cost on these. So after opening the first 2 of these, I would say the mix of countries is better than I've got from the past from these people. Still, there are a lot of coins from Britain, a lot of coins from Australia, and Japan, and a lot of clean coins. That's the bad side of this. But there's also, both of these have had, that I've opened so far, had 3 or 4 coins that made the whole thing worth it, plus a pretty good things to add to my trade pile. So they've had some, in pencil, they'll have a value on most of these, which seems to be pretty accurate. However, I would not pay 10 or 70 cents for this 10 yen, although it's an older date of 1954, so maybe it's worth 70 cents. Some of these, I think the price is spot on. Others, I think that they're just kind of dreaming on them, especially the ones that are cleaned. They show them like they're not clean. But speaking of clean, let's go ahead and get this first clean coin out of the way, and it comes in a square flip. It's a cleaned, I think if I remember, this is a half a sen from Japan. Yeah, half a sen, 1886. And so you can tell right away that it's clean because there is some corrosion on it. They try to get rid of it. The details are too well worn for it to be that shiny. If it wasn't clean, $10 would actually be a legitimate price on this, but hard to say on something like that what you would say something like this is worth. But I will point out that there are a couple of varieties of this one. This is point 1. It has to do with the shape of the scales. These are almost a V-shape scales on this dragon. The other version of this coin has more of a diamond shape, so I'll point that out. I'll also point out that I would recommend that you never use square flips that have square windows on them. I don't really see them for sale anymore, so I don't know if anyone would still be using these, but it just makes it too easy for the coin to roll around on the inside. So, I've seen some things on the outside, but I really don't know what we're going to see in here. We have got a lot of Switzerland coins in here that are older but well worn. This one's really old, 1898. It's a design they used for over 125 years. Some of these have some pretty good value. That one's worth $1. From Australia, we have a cleaned penny that they say is worth 60 cents from 1936. Then from Germany, this one's might be one of the better coins. 1907 E mint mark. The E is written on here twice. I can't see it with my glasses. Maybe you can see it. I guess I can see that's an E. But it's a 1 pfennig from the German Empire. They say it's worth $3. I suppose that coin is in better condition than I usually find it. Then from France, we've got a half franc, so 50 centimes from 1922. This one might actually have some of its original luster and not be clean. They say it's worth $3 on this aluminum bronze coin. Yeah, that one might be an upgrade in my collection. Let's see, from Norway, we've got this tiny tin ore. They say this one's worth $2, dated 1951. Pretty common coin, though. I'm kind of surprised that this one's only worth 80 cents. Maybe it is in rough shape because it's an aluminum coin, but it is from Denmark. It's from Christian X. Monogram with the crown on it. It's a 5 ore. And based on what I've seen in the first 2 videos, this is going to be a rarer thing than we normally see. But I'm curious what used to be in here. Another Australian penny that they would have had a price of $13.50 on. It's weird how they reuse flips like that. Here's another one that's been reused. We've got a lot of these echidna 5-cent coins from Australia. They say that one's worth 90 cents, 1995. So I'll try and go a little bit quicker on the coins that we've seen a lot. But here's the 10-cent coin. They say is worth $4. Okay, a lot of these Australian coins, I just don't believe the price. I'm going to pause for a moment, look up the book price of this coin. Okay, I've been trashing them for the book value, but it surprises me. Maybe it's mostly because I find 80s versions of this coin, 1980s, but the 1973, my catalog says MS-60 is worth $5 in book price. I am surprised. I guess I've never looked that close at it, or I just find so many of these. So that $4 on here, I guess, is reasonable if you think that is close to MS-60 uncirculated. So pretty good details on it, the lyrebird. So yeah, I'm surprised. Maybe a lot of these Australian coins are going to have the value that they have written on here. They say this one is 80 cents because it is a newer one. Let's see, we have a British halfpenny that they say is worth 30 cents. Okay, 1960. And then we've had a lot of Sweden coins in the first couple of videos, so this one is 1956. The Gustav Adolf VI, they say that's worth 70 cents. Then Australia 1 cent, they say is worth $1. So I do wish we'd have a mix of coins that we don't see as often, but maybe that's still coming. We've had 3 or 4 in the first couple of videos. That one's in good shape. $3 on that one. $1 on this one, 5 cents. So we're getting maybe a few too many echidna and some of these Australian coins, but Olav V, we have the one with the horse. They say is worth 60 cents. And then we've got this Norwegian 5 ore. They say is worth, let's say, $3.50. It looks like they've changed what's written on there a couple of times, but this bronze 5 ore from 1939. So here next, cleaned farthing that they say is worth $1.80. Seems oddly specific on the price, but here we have a 2 cent from Australia. They say is worth 60 cents. With the lizard from Japan, cleaned 1 sen. Not a very good cleaning on that one. Our next echidna 5 cents is worth, they say is worth $2. This one they say is worth $5 from 1924 on this tin ore. I mean, I wonder if people are really paying that for some of these coins. Maybe if you're trying to put together a set of them. So we've got Olav V here is going to be, I like this one. Out of the series of the animals from Olav V, I feel like the 2 ore is one of the hardest ones to find on here. So the book value may not be as good, but I think I don't see it as often. I'm happy with that one. Another clean farthing, they say is worth $1. At least they cleaned it well. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but we've got another echidna for $1.50. Another farthing, which could have been $7. And then, I don't see this 50 yen as often, but that's definitely not going to be worth 40 cents, especially if it's got glue on it. Looks like this was glued to something and they didn't even get all the cardboard off of it because there's a piece of cardboard stuck to it. I can only laugh at this, but I will point out they say it's year 34. So depending on how far back you go, sometimes the date goes this way, sometimes the date goes this way. On this specific coin, if they're saying it's year 34, they were confused about it. We've got a 3, a plus for 30, and then a 4, so it must be year 34 going that direction. So, yeah, I don't get as many of the 50 yen, I don't get as many of those. We've got another 1 ore, dated 1947, $1.40. Cleaned Victorian arrow, a coin from India. This was going to be a 1 pice. Interesting coin. So it's poor condition and also cleaned, but at least you don't see those very often. We've gotten a lot of Japanese coins from these people. It is good that they went ahead and went to the effort of figuring out the date on some of these so that I don't have to. This is a coin that has 3 different varieties based on the weight of it, so I'm glad they went ahead and figured that out for me. From Britain, we've got one of these very common tin new pins, although this one's, I appreciate the nice condition on it. Okay, here's one that I don't find very often. It's a 50 ore. I don't recognize the mint mark on it, that T letter S on it, but Gustav V. So I find the 25s and the 10 from this series all the time, but can't say that I find that one too often. I want to double check on this one. And the reason I didn't recognize it is I didn't have it. The TS is Torsten Swinson, which I am not familiar with, but this coin was only made sporadically for a few years around the World Wars, so it didn't get produced very often. When they didn't want a silver 50 ore, this was the copper nickel version, or nickel bronze version of this coin. So they made it early 20s, about 1940, and then 46, 47. And $2.50 is the book price for very fine. You can debate whether or not that's very fine if you want to, but that's the first coin I'm really happy about out of this box. From Iceland, we've got the 2 dolphin 5 kroner here. If you like your animals, you'll like the porpoise here. And Iceland has some good coins like that. They say this one is 160. There are 2 versions of this. This one's the nickel-plated steel version. And then we've got a common tin ore from Sweden. They say is worth 50 cents. And then back to Norway, we've got this one that they say is worth $1.50. And then I wonder where this one's going to be. It just says George V King Emperor. This one's not going to be a British coin. Based on some other things we've seen, I'm going to predict India on this one. It is from India. It's 1/12 of an anna from British-controlled India. They have the old catalog of Y35 on it. They say it's worth $30. I mean, $3 on here. So, yeah, that's a better coin in here. I probably had it, but all right. So, what is this? I hope they've identified it on the other side, because there is nothing I can use to recognize it here. Okay. A Great Britain halfpenny back in a time when the monarch is facing right. So they gave us the catalog number but didn't give us the details. So let me look up the details on this one. Well, if the catalog number is right, then this is going to be George III, and this coin was only minted in 1799. And I guess you can say that you don't see that every day. So at least it's interesting. So I hate getting these because I got so many of them in the last series that I made of these. The 10 yen, the 1 yens, at least we don't have any 1 yens yet. This is a very common coin. I do not need any more of them. Another from Iceland. This time, same coin, the 2 dolphins. Another Switzerland coin that's probably older. This one is $18.98. They say it's worth $2 on a 5 Rapin. And then standard 3 pence from 1952. Guess the last year of George VI, $1.50 on that one. See something with a lot of writing on it. What do we have here? Okay, this is the Hungarian coin from 1908. Pretty good details on it. I recently featured one of these in a different video that I recorded. This coin was made during the reign of, I think it was Franz Joseph I, for about 20 years or so. So Something a little bit on the rarer side. The 2 shilling, George V. And then here's another coin that won't be too common. We've got George VI, King and Emperor. Is this going to be another coin from India or somewhere else? Let's find out. It is from India. It's the 1 anna. The copper nickel version of this coin. I think there is a brass version. I may be wrong, but going from memory. They're implying it's the Calcutta Mint on here. So, had a lot of 6-pence in the first couple of videos. This one is a George VI. And then pretty common 1 cent 1 won coin from Taiwan, year 80. From Sweden, we've got another 5 ore. Another farthing from 1951. At least this one does not appear to be cleaned, and if it was cleaned, it was a long time ago. So I kind of like getting those 1 farthing coins. You don't find them as often as the half-pence and 1 pence, but in trade value, we've got a good one here for a 1 pound coin from 2003. So most of the pounds that I get are dated in the 80s. I find them all the time. I don't find these nearly as often. If you'd never noticed before, there's a Scottish unicorn on here. Always like pointing that out because people that don't follow coins are kind of surprised to see that. We've got a Sweden 10 ore from 1921. This looks like it's from the same series as the 50 that we had earlier, but the 10 instead of the 50, with a W mint mark on this one. Again, not silver, nickel bronze. Then, coin from Laos, not Canada. Reusing your clips again. The 20-cent coin, or actually, I think it's 20 at, maybe? But 1952. These are the coins from Laos I find the most, but this appears to be the biggest version of it. Well, I guess it is cents. 20 cents from 1952. So that's a good one for trade. You don't see those too often. Another 6-pence that they say is worth 35 cents. Another half-penny worth $1, they say. Then from Japan, another 50 yen from 1976. 1919 on this well-worn Switzerland 5 Rappen. Someone tried selling this for 75 cents. And it ended up in this bag. We've got our next clean farthing of Edward VII. Would have been worth $4. And another old Rappen from 1925, a 5 Rappen. They say that one's, yeah, that one's fairly well worn. From 1948, we've got another of these iron coins from Sweden. This one they say is worth 60 cents. A little bit of corrosion on this one. Although, interesting scratches in between the crowns on here. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but it's like the other, that's called a die clash, where you have some of what's seen on the other side kind of strike and damage the die that it didn't have a planchet in it, so some of it shows up on the other side. That's an interesting thing to spot on here. Next we've got common Chinese low value, 1975. Now, a couple of years ago, I got a coin from these people. They gave me a free one where they had an $8 price tag on one of these. And I'm like, nope, you don't want $8. You don't want to pay $8 for that. They didn't charge me that. They gave it to me for free. But okay, our next clean farthing. And then back to another penny. Then our next 5 wrapping. 1894. Okay, a different country. Here's something from Liberia. The 1 cent from 1975. Now, about half a year ago when I got a batch from these people, they had one of these that was actually plated. But you always find them in copper. Or bronze, I should say. Have the elephant on this side. So I like finding that one. It's probably the easiest coin to find from a country that's not too easy to find. Our next coin from India is this brass 1/12 of an anna. British-controlled India, they say 1944. So much written on here, not sure what to trust. So it's not 1/12, it's 1/2. $1944. That was pretty decent, I'd say. Here is half a pice from 1921. Oh, this side's well worn. Okay, I guess this side's a little bit more well worn than I first thought, but they say it's worth $2. Back to Switzerland on a tin wrapping. From 1900, they say that one's worth 80 cents. Another tin. 1924, a little bit more details, but still only worth 60 cents, they say. Back to Olav V. Got the one with the dog on it, 1969. They say that's worth 70 cents. Okay, here's a good one from Iceland. 1945. Really good close-up view of the details of this one. Let me hold it up closer to the camera. Trying to figure out everything going on. So it looks like we've got cattle on the left of the shield. That a shepherd on the right. A dragon behind the shepherd. Okay, I like that coin. I don't know that I've taken that close of a look at it, but it's the 2 kroner. They have a price back here. They say that's $1.30. I'm kind of surprised. I would have thought that would have been worth more. Back to the dog. Again, here's something that's not too common, although it is kind of rough. Switzerland. So we did get one of these in an earlier video that I think the one we found earlier was made out of zinc. So this is the older bronze version. And they still say that's worth $3. So that is a Switzerland coin that has changed over the years. Here's a one that I don't find too often. I think it's another coin from India. Let's see. Yes. So it's a 1 pice from 1945. Just has the British crown on it. The flat crown. So there must be a variety on these. So $1.20 is what they call that one. Another 6p. It's really bad if you have to use a lot of whiteout to reuse a flip. Seems like it'd just be easier to use another flip. But we got the 6p there. Another clean farthing that could have been worth 75 cents. So here's the modern one wrapping from Switzerland. Very, very colorful writing, ink on this one, but That one's really good uncirculated look to it, 1970. I wonder why they decided to change the look of the 1 and the 2, but they kept the 5, the 10, the 20, the half, and the franc unchanged for so long. Another 2 ore. $1.50 on that one. Another 2 ore. They say that one's $3. And then another farthing from 38. $1.20. From Australia. Haven't got as many Australia coins in this one as some of the earlier ones. It's like once I paused to look up the price, they stopped putting them in here, I guess. But they say that one would have been worth 80 cents. That one's not as valuable and cleaned. And I say that, and here's our next echidna. So, $6. Maybe it's true. It is an older version of this coin, 1967, and it looks like it's in decent condition. Maybe that one really does have a book value of $6. I wish I knew how to get that out of, that value out of here, but Norway, 1949, 10 ore. They say this one's worth $2. Obviously, if they could have gotten this value out of here, they would have. So, they are selling me to these with 20 cents each at this rate. But we have another British India. Half Anna, they say that it's Calcutta with dots, which means, well, I thought that was going to reference instead of a mint mark, but I don't see a mint mark on here. So is this a variety? Okay. Another from Liberia. So that's the second one of these in the video, 1972. And then another from Australia, another echidna, that they say is worth $1. And this is a good one. I had it, but from Hong Kong, we've got the $10 here from 1994. I think it's Hong Kong, bimetallic. Yes, Hong Kong Bauhinia flower. They say it's worth $2. You're more likely to get your $2 out of that one than you would $6 on the echidna, I think. Here's another old cleaned one in a square flip. So this is the 1 sen. Pretty coin, but I hate that it's cleaned like this. But dating back to the 1886 on that one. So still nice to see it, I guess. I just wish it wasn't cleaned. Here's one that does not appear to be clean that they say is worth $4. So we've got a 1 sen on this one, 1916. So that's a better pickup out of here. Another tiny flip. Let's see, this one is the 2 ore again. So we've had a few of those. And then another 5 wrapping. Now these Swiss coins, they did not make them at the 5, the 10, and the 20 out of silver. Only the half and the 1 franc. 1944, it's worth 50 cents, they say. And then here's an Austria coin that I pointed out in another recent video. This one's called the 1000 Kronen. And a year or two after this, they replaced this coin with another similar coin that I think was like 10 Heller or something like that. I'm just going from memory. But the number changed, but everything else of the design stayed the same. So we had the lady wearing the hat in front of the mountain. And I also pointed out on that other video that one of the flowers shown here is the Edelweiss flower, and just by saying that, it takes me back to The Sound of Music, a musical, hearing the song about Edelweiss, and I'd never thought about what an Edelweiss was. It's a flower, and it's one of the flowers that's on the back of this coin. So there are 2 different versions of this coin. This is the 1000 Kronen version. So not something you see all that often. Here they say is a tin ore with a star. So I am looking for a star on here. There we go. The star. I think the star means that it's an acting mint master. So when the person takes over as mint master, they put a star while they're the acting before they can, I guess for political reasons they were required to do that, but have to point that out. Let's see what we've got next in here. We've got another, these Rooster 2 ores. Oh, that one looks pretty. I'd love for some of these to be upgrades in my personal collection, and they only say that one's worth 90 cents. And then we've got another of these clean Japan 10 yens that's not worth much. And then we've got a florin. A florin is 2 shilling. They say it's worth $4. Here they actually do say 2 shilling, but in older versions of this coin, previous kings and queens, it was called the florin. Back to Australia, we've got the 1 cent worth book price of 80 cents. Another of those. Another penny. George VI, Australia penny. So I like finding the Australia pennies just because they're rarer and might have more collector appeal. And then only a couple of coins left. What is this one? We've got an Australian dollar. That's good, 1985. Another kangaroo, modern coin with the kangaroo. They say this book's for $2.20. Mini kangaroos. We've got 5 adult kangaroos on here. So that's a good one, and looks like one more coin. We've got our 1996 Thailand 50th anniversary of the reign of Rama IX. Coin right here. The 10 baht is bimetallic, so this one might be my favorite that's easily accessible from the series. But it's a 1 year, they made all of their coins look like this for a year as their Golden Jubilee. Had this design on the reverse as well. There are a couple of versions of this coin, and I remember this because I made it in a video in the last week or so that I've recorded, but there are 2 versions of this coin where the difference is the gap between the top of the radiance right here and the edge of the ring. This is the more common version that was made in Thailand. There is another version where that gap is tiny, and I think it was made in Italy. All right, so this was a pretty good lot. We had some clean coins, but not as many as some of the other videos that we've had in this series. Pretty good mix. It wasn't an overwhelming number of Australian and British coins, even though there were a lot of each. There weren't as many as the previous videos. So, was this worth $20? Would you have bought 5 of these like I have? So this is my 3rd video out of the set, and I'll probably post the next video out of the set in another 3 or 4 weeks or so, because I don't like putting these back to back. But let's see, this is, I'll probably keep on buying these, but I shouldn't buy too many of them, I guess. I need to be able to, the only reason I buy them is because I can turn around and flip them, and if I've got anything for sale on eBay, it'll be listed in the comments down below. But where some of these coins will someday probably end up on eBay. All right, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.